The nights are getting longer, leaves have begun to fall, and there's horror vibes in the air. I got a special top 10 horror series coming right at you guys, so stick around. I'm back! Yeah! What's going on, fellow horror fans? I'm Scott. Welcome to my channel, a tiny little spot in the smallest corner of YouTube I like to call the Movie Den. That's right, my friends, I'm back, and I know it's been a minute since I've dropped any content on the channel. It's been at least 3 months. And for that, I owe a heartfelt apology. Without getting into any details, life just sometimes comes in hard, kicks you in the nuts, and changes everything. So things got hectic and stressful, so I had to step away a little bit, and really longer than I had planned, but I just couldn't focus on creating content with everything going on. I had to wait for things to settle down a little bit. But let me tell you, I never stopped thinking about the channel. I never stopped thinking about you guys, the future of the channel. I just needed to find the right time to jump back into it, and what better time than spooky season, guys. And what a better way to kick off this bloody good time than announce and kick off a top 10 horror series I've been dying to do, and that's the top 10 horror films of the 80s. I'll start at 1980, which is the subject of today's video, and I'll carry it on up into 1989. That's 10 top 10s, 100 of my favorite horror films. And if this series does well, I'll consider carrying it on into the 90s and beyond. Humanoids from the Deep is a creature feature directed by Jimmy Murakami, who stepped in after the original director, Barbara Peters, had a bit of a creative clash with producer Roger Corman, who we all know has a love for exploitation cinema. But he wanted more of everything, so he brought in Murakami, who amped up the gore, the nudity, and the mayhem. This is a classic example of 80s echo horror elements mixed with exploitation. Humanoids from the Deep is about this little fishing village that becomes the hunting ground for mutant fishmen whose intent is to mate with human women. Yeah, it's as fucked up as it sounds. The special effects makeup, though not groundbreaking by any standards, were impressive for this film. The monsters were designed by Rob Bottin, who later on went on to do the effects for The Thing. They're cheesily grotesque, if that's even a freaking word. Cheesily... what the fuck? Anyways, with only 3 suits to work with, the film cleverly uses camera angles and editing to create the illusion of more of these fuckers running around and invading this village. The violence and gore are plentiful, lots of gruesome deaths. It doesn't shy away from delivering on the horror aspect of the film, and it's packed with okay practical effects for 1980. Doug McClure stars as Jim Hill, a local fisherman, while Ann Turkel plays a scientist named Susan Drake. And a little behind-the-scenes tidbits here. Turkel wasn't reportedly happy with the finished product. She had no idea about the extent of the nudity, but it led to some behind-the-scenes drama. And let me say this in regards to that. If you sign on to a Roger Corman film, you should know what to expect. I mean, you do know who he is, right? Anyways, the 2 leads were okay in the film. Nothing stood out or anything. They're just serviceable, really. Despite its B-movie roots and the controversies surrounding this production, the film did find its fans. It has become a cult classic that is appreciated for its unapologetic embrace of B-movie tropes and its sheer entertainment value. While I'm not a big fan of the exploitation elements in this film, it is a truly a fun, trashy romp.
Hey, Vincent, I think this one is just about ready. Yeah.
Motel Hell is directed by Kevin Connor and delivers a macabre take on the slasher genre with a satirical twist. And at its core, Motel Hell is an industrialized look at food production and the eerie charm of rural America. The plot revolves around farmer Vincent Smith, played by Rory Calhoun, who runs a quaint motel with his sister Ida, played by Nancy Parsons. However, this seemingly warm-hearted duo have a gruesome secret. They kidnap travelers, bury them in their secret garden, and turn them into the main ingredient in their famous smoked meats. The premise is both absurd and terrifying. But Calhoun's portrayal of Vincent is well done. He is the perfect blend of friendly country gentleman with a sinister psychopath. Nancy Parsons as Ida does do well with her over-the-top, unsettling performance. Their chemistry is one of the film's highlights, and it does bring some creepy charm to their deeds. Motel Hell stands out for its campy tone and satirical edge. The film doesn't take itself too seriously, which allows for moments of genuine humor. The script is not particularly deep, but it is effective. The story is engaging, and I knew what I was watching when I put it in, and I had a good time with it. The film's practical effects, though dated by today's standards, do contribute to its cult status. The infamous garden scene where the victims are buried up to their necks are particularly memorable. The climactic chainsaw duel, complete with a pig mask, it's a bizarre and unforgettable finale. While this film may not appeal to everyone, those looking for a film that's both unsettling and oddly entertaining, you're in for a good time with this one. Terror Train, directed by Roger Spottiswoode and directed by Jamie Lee Curtis, is a slasher film that rode the waves of horror trends from the late 70s and early 80s, skillfully blending the terror of mass killers with the claustrophobic confines of a train. Terror Train tells the story about a group of college students celebrating New Year's Eve aboard a private train who find themselves hunted by a masked killer. The train setting is unique. It transforms the typical slasher movie into a suspenseful and confined cat-and-mouse game. The narrow corridors, the dim lighting, and constant motion of the train create some great atmosphere for this film. Jamie Lee Curtis, already cemented as a scream queen for her role in Halloween, delivers another good performance as Alana Maxwell. She plays her in a relatable way that grounds the film even as the body count keeps rising. The supporting cast, including Ben Johnson and Hart Bachner, provide some decent performances, though it's Curtis who truly stands out in the film. The killer's use of disguises donned in different costumes as the night progresses is really cool and keeps the tension high. This concept is cleverly executed, with each new disguise contributing to the mounting paranoia among the passengers. The film's score, composed by John Millis Crockle, is pretty good and fits the film's tension. While Terror Train adheres to many of the genre tropes, it distinguishes itself through its setting and strong lead performance by Curtis. The pacing is deliberate, allowing the tension to build steadily, and the kills are decent enough for a slasher. However, the film does occasionally rely on familiar slasher cliches, which can make some plot points feel a little predictable at times. This is a solid entry in the slasher genre, offering enough originality to keep horror enthusiasts engaged. It may not reinvent the wheel or anything like that, but it's a decent slasher. Directed by Louis Teague, Alligator perfectly encapsulates the charm of 80s creature features. The film follows the story of a baby alligator who is flushed down a toilet and survives in the sewers by consuming discarded lab animals that were injected with growth hormones. Years later, it reemerges as a gigantic, ravenous beast terrorizing the city. One of the film's strongest points is its self-aware, tongue-in-cheek approach. Robert Forster delivers a groundbreaking performance as David Madison, a cop with a tragic past, tasked with stopping the monstrous reptile. The special effects are dated, but they are impressive for this film, especially for 1980. The alligator, brought to life through a mix of practical effects and clever camera work, is convincingly menacing. The sewer scenes in particular are effectively claustrophobic, showcasing Teague's skill in building suspense. The screenplay by John Sayles injects a surprising amount of social commentary, subtly critiquing corporate greed and environmental negligence, providing more than just surface level thrills. Alligator is a well-crafted, entertaining horror flick. It's a fun, good watch, and I think it's a standout in the creature feature genre and delivers in spades.
Don't move. Don't move or I'll smack you. I'll smack you! Shut up!
Up next, we have another slasher. This one is directed by Robert Hammer and puts you into the gritty streets of Los Angeles. Don't Answer the Phone centers around a deranged Vietnam War veteran played unsettlingly by Nicholas Worth. He terrorized the city by strangling women and taunting a radio psychologist played by Flo Lawrence. The film's strength is its raw, unpolished aesthetic that effectively captures the era's sleaze. Worth's performance as Kirk Smith is chilling. He embodies the role with a disturbing realism that makes the character's violence and madness deeply disturbing. The story is punctuated by his graphic and brutal killings. And while shocking, they are somewhat mitigated by the film's dated special effects. It does struggle with pacing and narrative cohesion. The subplot involving Dr. Gale feels underdeveloped a little bit, and the attempts to delve into Smith's psychological background are often overshadowed by the film's gratuitous violence. James Westmoreland as Lieutenant McCabe often borders on the cliched, and he does lack the depth that was needed to fully engage the audience. The film has a certain grim appeal for fans of Grindhouse cinema. It offers a window into the darker corners of 1980s Los Angeles with a soundtrack that enhances its grimy atmosphere. Yet, it is important to approach this film with tempered expectations. It is a relic of its time, a raw experience that delivers shocks and thrills. It does falter in its storytelling and character development, and it may even come off, it did to me anyways, as an unsettling and disjointed experience. John Carpenter's The Fog comes in at number 5 and is set in the sleepy coastal town of Antonio Bay. And as the story progresses, we discover and unravel a tale about a 100-year-old secret. And as the town prepares for its centennial celebration, they are unaware of the dark history that is about to resurface. The fog rolling in from the sea brings with it vengeful ghosts of lepers who were betrayed and left to die by the town's founders. It is executed with a finesse only Carpenter can deliver. The slow encroachment of the fog, the unsettling visuals, it creates an almost claustrophobic atmosphere that traps the characters within its grasp. Carpenter masterfully uses minimalistic music, which he composed himself like he did for Halloween. It heightens the suspense and everything that's going on within the film. The cast featuring Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Tom Atkins deliver solid performances that ground the supernatural elements of the film. The Fog excels through its construction of atmosphere, Carpenter's use of lighting, with the fog itself becoming a malevolent character, and its strategic use of sound design, where every creak and every whisper contributes to the building tension. The film's pacing is deliberate, allowing the tension to build organically, which might feel slow to modern audiences, but it is a hallmark of Carpenter's style. This is a film where true terror lies in not what is seen, but what is suggested. And at number 4 is Prom Night. It's a Canadian slasher directed by Paul Lynch and starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Damn, I just realized that she's like in 3 films on this list. But anyways, this is one of her earlier Scream Queen roles. And the story takes you through the terrifying events of a high school prom that turns deadly. The film begins with a chilling childhood accident that leads to the death of a young girl. And we fast forward 6 years later, and her friends are now in high school. They're seniors. They're preparing for their prom. And the trauma of the past is buried but not forgotten, setting the stage for a night of revenge. Jamie Lee Curtis shines as the lead, the popular and likable Kim Hammond, the prom queen, whose performance makes this a little more than your standard slasher film. What does set Prom Night apart from the other slasher films of this era is its buildup of the tension. The killer's identity remains shrouded in mystery until the climax, with red herrings scattered throughout to keep you guessing. The suspense is well maintained. However, the film does take its time to ramp up the action, focusing more on character development, which is good, and the atmosphere, building the atmosphere in the first half of the film. Some of the acting, particularly from the supporting cast, feels stilted, and the pacing can be uneven, with the first act dragging slightly before the horror elements truly kick in. The final reveal, while shocking, may feel a little predictable to the seasoned horror fans, but it's executed well enough to give a little flair and to leave a lasting impression. Prom Night is a must-watch for horror fans of the slasher genre. It may not reach the heights of genre classics like Halloween or Friday the 13th, but it delivers enough thrills for fans of these types of films. Prom Night is, well, worth a watch, even just one time. Friday the 13th is the perfect entry in the slasher genre. It spawned horror icon Jason Voorhees, gave us 12 movies, and set the stage for decades of horror cinema. Director Sean S. Cunningham welcomes us to Camp Crystal Lake, where a group of teenage camp counselors are brutally murdered one by an unseen assailant. I felt that this film has always had great atmospheric tension. The setting of a remote summer camp combined with the isolation of the characters. The film utilizes its eerie surroundings with shadows of moonlit woods, enhancing the feeling that danger lurks behind every tree. The kills are creative, making full use of the practical effects by Tom Savini, and the work here deserves particular praise for its realistic and gruesome execution, which really became a standard of the series. The performances are what one might expect from a low-budget horror film. They're serviceable, but nothing to write home about. Betsy Palmer, however, delivers a chilling performance as Mrs. Voorhees, revealing a tragic backstory. Her final confrontation with the film's final girl, played by Adrienne King, is very satisfying. The score by Harry Manfredini, with screeching violins and eerie music, have become iconic with this series. With its straightforward approach to horror, reliance on atmosphere, and shocking gore, Friday the 13th is a seminal film in the slasher genre.
John. Help.
And at number 2 is The Changeling, directed by Peter Medak and starring George C. Scott, who delivered a powerful performance as John Russell, a grief-stricken composer who relocates to a secluded mansion following a tragic death of his wife and daughter. It transcends the typical horror conventions that is associated with a film of this type, in its sophisticated storytelling and chilling atmosphere. Medak's direction is great at crafting suspense. It allows tension to mount steadily as Russell uncovers the mansion's dark history. The supernatural elements interwoven, relying more on psychological terror than cheap scares. This restraint makes the few moments of straight horror all the more impactful. The screenplay is rich with mystery and emotional depth, mainly by George C. Scott. The plot unfolds like a classic ghost story, with Russell discovering that the mansion harbors the restless spirit of a young boy who met a violent end. The investigation into the tragedy becomes a journey that's of redemption and justice. This elevates the film above other haunted house films. The cinematography deserves special mention. Its use of lighting and camera angles accentuate the mansion's sinister beauty. Rick Wilkins' score is equally effective, giving us haunted melodies complementing the film's more somber tone. I recommend The Changeling for fans of well-done haunted house films.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
And then number 1 is my favorite film from 1980, and that's The Shining, based on Stephen King's novel of the same name. It delves into the unsettling transformation of Jack Torrance, brilliantly portrayed by Jack Nicholson. as he descends into his madness. The Overlook Hotel is a character in of itself, offers an eerie atmosphere that amplifies the psychological terror. Nicholson's performance is legendary, capturing Jack's gradual unraveling with intensity. Kubrick's direction is phenomenal. Each frame is crafted to evoke a sense of dread. The iconic shots of the tricycle riding Danny navigating the hotel's labyrinthian corridors. It's all coupled with a haunting score that all creates suspense and terror. The cinematography by John Alcott is stunning, utilizing the vast empty space of the hotel to heighten the sense of isolation. Well, that's it for my top 10 horror films of 1980. What film on this list caught your eye? What is your favorite film from 1980? Let me know in the comment section below. New to the channel, help out a little guy by subscribing on the road to 200. Got like 10 left, so be one of them 10. It's free. Don't forget to like and share with your fellow horror fans. And be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when I drop my top 10 horror films from 1981. Again, I'm Scott. Stay bloody. What say you? Yeah.